Chris, I want to start with you before we get into our stories. I think your name may be familiar to people who have read about you in the news. And if you want to just touch on quickly why we may have heard your name in national news recently.
Well, you probably heard my name because I was most recently fired for standing for Black Lives Matters movement through my social media at that, a personal page. I worked for a company, a private company in Tampa that did not agree that I should be the face of the company any longer because of my stance with Black Lives Matter. So they let me go after a fellow colleague showed them my personal page where I just posted like a number of things like, hashtag Black Lives Matter or the George Floyd video, recent events that are happening in the community, in the Black community. We're all, for the most part, I can say that we're all pretty peaceful. So it wasn't anything outrageous or of any sorts. So it was basically just because of my stance and my beliefs. They let me go. It wasn't their look, their quote unquote look.
What did they tell you as far as why they were letting you go?
Interesting. That's a good question. The thing that stood out to me the most was that I make them look like oppressors by doing so, when I actually believe that if you allow your employees to talk about things that matter to them, and I don't think that makes you look like an oppressor. I think that makes you look like, hey, we let our employees stand for things that they believe, what's important to them. We also care about things that are important to them, but it didn't come across that way to them. I told them, I didn't feel that way. That must be a personal problem you got to deal with because I don't feel that way. I never said it. So that's something that you got to deal with personally.
And I think I also read a statement from the company. And did they imply in the statement that you quit or?
Yeah.
Discrepancy there, right?
Yeah, there was a bit. I mean, they have made more than one statement, none of which are the same. So that's a telltale there. But the one that really stood out the most was that they would never be like colorblind. They said that like we at Seminole Hedge General Store will never be colorblind. And I think like we don't want you to not see us. That's not the point. So that was another red flag for people to really catch a glimpse of what really happened behind the scenes there. I didn't quit. I asked for a personal day after they told me that I make them look like oppressors. I was like, yeah, after 5 years of working here and never taking a day off, I think this is the day that I'm going to take a day off. And so I don't know how that was misconstrued. I never said I quit. I mean, so it was a rude awakening when I woke up to go get ready for work and they said, oh, your final check will be waiting for you Friday. And I said, okay, that's fine.
And for the record, the company is acknowledging that you are no longer part of the team, but denying everything else essentially publicly, right?
Yeah, when they made that statement on the internet the first time they did it on Facebook, I mean, the community went crazy just because there's a bunch of red flags in the text itself. And they're trying to put out fire after fire after fire, and people are calling and they're telling them that I'm still working there after they just put out a statement that I quit. And then shortly later, they say I'm fired. And then shortly later after that, they say I'm still there. And then shortly after that, I don't even work there anymore.
Right.
So, or I never worked there, So, be careful what you say if you can't really back it up, because you're always going to lose that one.
I think it's important also to note that you have turned this into a huge positive for you, right? And like decided to step out on your own and focus on your own company and use this as kind of like a launch pad for that, right?
I think it's very important. Me personally, I believe that it's very important, instead of looking at what's been taken away from you, look at what's been given to you. And they most definitely can't take away my power. Most definitely. Like, that's something that's never going to be able to be taken away from me. And then you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, well, I want to discuss my beliefs freely, especially, I mean, being Black, having Black children, having a Black father. You know what I mean? This is something that's very important to me. So I want to make it to a point where I can make change. I can speak about it freely. Everybody can speak it freely who comes, you know, and works alongside Holiday Bakes. Or I would like to encourage being around people that believe in the same things. And so just create your own path if that's the case. And, you know,
Well, we're glad to have you here. Glad to have you here sharing your perspective. Madi, you as well, obviously. And let's get into it.